Good morning. I'm Dr. J. Mehta. I would like to present a topic which is very near and dear to me. This is about mythology of ancient India and how it relates to the modern world. There are thousands of immigrants from India in United Kingdom, USA. Their children, grandchildren do not understand some of the mythology. Some of this mythology may look like just a fiction or imaginary story, but to me a mythology is more than just an imagination or a fiction. It has a deeper symbolic meaning that conveys the cultural, social, and a group psychology that is being presented in the form of a beautiful story or a beautiful work of art. And that's what I would like to present today. Now, Joseph Campbell would say that a mythology is a reflection of collective unconscious or collective subconscious of a particular group of human race, human culture, sociology. And I would like to point out that this mythological ancient stories, even though they may look very difficult to understand, there are some common themes and common messages. How human beings deal with anger and anxiety and the inner emotions, and how the good wins over the evil. That message has been conveyed to the masses or millions of people over centuries. We need to understand that these ancient stories are being told by sages or scholars to the common person who cannot read or write. And to convey these apparently difficult subjects to a lot of people and modify it over the years, and yet people would remember it in a collective memory, is a fascinating phenomena that has been going on both in Eastern culture and the Western culture. To give you an example, the theory of creation in Greek mythology, where the Geo or the Mother Earth marries the sky and then produces Cronus or Titan, gods of Titans and Olympia. Now, if you really put a common sense question, how can Earth marry sky and produce children? That's not the really a material or a biological sense question. Really, it's a mythological concept that the creation came from earth, sky, light, space, water, the essential elements that were present at the time of creation. So anybody who takes these mythological stories only at its world value or as it is written or told is missing the boat. There's a hidden message that a lot of people already understood, but it was not spelled out. So let me start with an interesting a statue here in front of me, which shows the creation mythology and dissolution mythology of Hindu tradition. This is a replica of a 9th century Shiva. Shiva is one of the 3 important gods of Hindu faith. The Brahma, the god of creation. Vishnu is a god of power that sustains life and protects human race. And Shiva is considered a god of dissolution or god of destruction. Now, you would think that the god of destruction is a negative god, but Hindus look at it as a dissolution to prepare the universe for the new creation. So, he is not necessarily a bad god. There comes a time, and usually Hindus consider that every 4.3 billion years. Interestingly, they thought that the time on the planet is different than time of the creator Brahma. So, one day of Brahma is approximately 4.3 billion years on planet Earth. This God, when wakes up, the matter turns into life, and then when he sleeps, the life turns into the matter. I mean, almost like a DNA becoming alive and DNA becoming dead, but it is actually meant to be a consciousness of the supreme divine universal entity that converts the portion of his consciousness and injects into the force of life. Now this statue, here Shiva is also a god of dance. He performs a beautiful dance, and you can see that around this circle, these are all planets burning. Believe it or not, these are represented multiple planets in the galaxy, and Shiva is performing his beautiful dance of dissolution at the end of every cycle of creation and dissolution. In his hand there is light, but this is called a mudra like this. It's called Abhay Mudra. Abhay means fear not. Even though he is preparing dissolution of the whole universe, there is no anger or there is no frustration on his face. In fact, there's a gentle smile. He's saying, don't be afraid, this dissolution is the beginning of recreation. And this is a cyclic concept of Hindu creation and destruction. But a beautiful position, for example, to be able to bend the knee and still keep a balance requires a tremendous control of dancing position. Now guess what this is? This is the dwarf of ego. So now let us go to the deeper meaning of this. When the ego is totally surrendered, the inner consciousness is fully awakened. It is through the inner consciousness that you look at the life in a new creation form. You are able to dissolve or destroy your negative energy, that is anger, greed, lust, and a lot of negative emotions to other life forms. Once you are fully awakened, the pure consciousness of love and kindness wakes up. Now if you can see here, there's a drum. It's almost like a big bang. When Shiva moves the drum in one direction, the first sound appears. Hindus call it Om. Modern scientists will call it maybe Big Bang or Bang theory. But first there was a sound, and the sound is the first energy that comes out from nothingness at the beginning of the existence, before the existence existed. And then his drum or the sound converts or begins to convert the matter into life and vice versa. So this is a beautiful statue of Shiva and his dance. It's called Tandav or dance of dissolution, but it is also a dance of recreation. Now philosophically, as Kumar Swami says, this dance occurs in Chidda Brahma, supreme mind of the God and his consciousness. So actually the initial energy of the universe is the everlasting energy of supreme consciousness, which is the root source of energy for creation of our galaxy or the planet. And these are various planets around him, and after certain million or billions of years, this creator God and the dissolution God decides that it's time to level everything off and start all over again. So this statue, on one hand, could be worshipped as Lord Shiva, but has a deeper meaning of what Hindu sages and people of India believed about creation and dissolution and the cycle of creation of the galaxy and the life forms over many, many centuries, perhaps many, many billions of years. But the beautiful thing I want to point out is, even though there is a dissolution, the Shiva is not doing this with anger. He has a sense of kindness. It is time to go. And this is true with our life. You enjoy the life, ultimately you face the death, but instead of fear, and he says, fear not, by putting his hand like this, that you are going to a journey that is going to be a new beginning. So if you want to apply to individual life, fully conscious, you are a realized person, you no longer will have the fear of death, and you are ready to continue the cycle of reincarnation. So this is a statue of Shiva and his dance. Now let me talk about Ganesa. Before I tell you about Ganesa, let me tell you that in Hindu pantheon, a Westerner will think that Hindus believe in a lot of gods, so they are polytheistic. In reality, Hindus are monotheistic, but believe that the supreme God is able to take multiple forms. So suppose there's a Dr. Smith, he's a physician, but he has a family, so he is father of his son. Same Dr. Smith is a husband to his wife. There are not multiple Dr. Smith, but when he sees his patient, he's a physician. When he's playing with his child, he's a father. When he's sitting with his wife, he's a husband. Similarly, Hindus have believed that there is only one God who is beyond any form or shape, Supreme Brahman. But for the sake of worship, or for the sake of relating to the human mind, this God takes various forms or shape. So you might think that Shiva and Ganesa and Krishna are different gods. In a way, you are mistaken. It's the same God taking different form or shape in the mind of the devotee, so that his meditation or his prayer or his bhakti is more effective. So he can relate to the God who is beyond any imagination or beyond human concept. So to focus the mind, Hindus prefer an image and give certain qualities to the God for a certain occasion. Like if I need some money, I'm going to have goddess Lakshmi. She's a goddess of wealth. If I want to start a difficult task, I will have Lord Ganesa. Ganesa is also called Vigneshwaraya, which means he removes the obstacles. So when you start some major project, you wanna have Lord Ganesa who will remove the possible obstacles or difficulties when you undertake a major project. But I want to tell you this story of Ganesa because it's a very interesting story. Ganesa is a son of Lord Shiva and his wife Parvati, also known as Gauri. Sometimes Parvati is also called Durga. She is known as goddess of strength or Shakti. She is tremendously powerful and has tremendous emotion towards children for their well-being. Now, one day, Shiva, who is a god of meditation or yoga, decides to go far away on the mountaintop and just sits in meditation. And it takes months and months, perhaps years, for him to just keep on practicing his meditation. At that time, Gauri, the goddess Parvati, is somewhat lonely. So she decides to create a child so that she would have some company. Now it's very interesting if you look at the story that she just rubs her skin and from there she creates a beautiful child. It's almost like taking a DNA from the skin and creating a baby from there. But it is her psychic energy and yogic power that she creates this child. And then the child grows, and 4 or 5 year old child, and she tells the child that, Ganesa, you sit outside and make sure nobody enters the house. One day, goddess Parvati is taking bath. And at that time, Ganesa is sitting outside watching the house. So no stranger will come in at the time. It so happens that Lord Shiva has completed his meditation session and he comes back home. Now he doesn't know about this child, and as he tries to enter, Ganesa does not allow Shiva to enter the house. Ganesa doesn't know that the person he is blocking is his father, Shiva, the god of meditation, god of Ganesa, god of dissolution, the great god of the Hindu Trinity. So Shiva and Ganesa go into argument. It so happens that Shiva is just annoyed that in his own house he is being blocked by a child, and the child is somewhat stubborn because he says, "This is my mother's order, I'm not going to let you in." Well, Shiva then sends his Gana, or his army of servants, and tries to remove the child. But this child is so powerful, being a son of Shakti, or goddess of strength, that all the army of Shiva is completely defeated by this young boy who is created from this divine psychic energy of Gauri, or goddess Parvati. So then Shiva himself enters the battle, and in his anger he takes his trident and beheads the child. So the child that has a normal human or god-like face now has no face at all. And suddenly, when this commotion is going on, Parvati comes out of the house and sees that her husband, out of anger, has destroyed Ganesha's head. She starts crying, she's very upset, and Shiva feels sorry that, oh my God, in the anger, what have I done? I have destroyed my own child's face. He then invites Lord Vishnu, the god of preserving the life on the planet. And Vishnu says, all right, let's find another head and we will transplant it. So Shiva and Vishnu send someone to find a beautiful head. It so happens that the first head they find is that of a baby elephant who was sleeping facing north. And in Hindu mythology, head facing to the north is preparing to go to the heaven. So the head of a baby elephant is cut off and placed on the head of this child who had lost the head. Now Ganesa has a head of an elephant and the rest of the body of a human being. And then, to keep Parvati more happy, Vishnu declares that he would be as mighty as Lord Vishnu, and everybody who performs any major activity will first worship Lord Ganesa, who will remove the obstacle, and he will become the leader of all the celestial gods on the planet or on the galaxy entirely. So this is the story of Lord Ganesa. Now if you take it on a literal meaning, it doesn't make any sense. Why Lord Shiva, so powerful, not know that the child in front of him is his own child? And why would he kill a child even though he is stubborn and doesn't let him enter the house? But let's look at the deeper meaning of what is going on. To give a specific status to a child to become the leader, he has to have a new head. And let's look at it in a modern perspective. Suppose you are a great engineer who makes automobile. Just because you are a great engineer who designs beautiful car, and somebody makes you a CEO of a car industry, you will have to change your head from being a engineer of auto industry to a administrator. Just because you are a successful technical person does not mean you will be successful administrative person. Suppose you are a physician with a lot of clinical talent and somebody makes you a dean of a college of medicine. That doesn't mean you're going to be a good dean. You are a good doctor, but to becoming an administrative head, you will require different type of talents, ability to work with people, ability to be efficient administrator, ability to lead a crowd of physicians, PhDs, technical people, support staff, and so on and so forth. If Ganesha, as Parvati desired, was to be the leader of all devas or the celestial gods, he has to have cool elephant head. See, he is symbolic here. Elephant is considered an animal who is very calm, very intelligent, and has tremendous memory. If you're going to be a leader, you have to have big ears of an elephant that listens to people. If you're going to be a CEO, if you're going to be a leader, you have to have a patience to listen to people who come to you. He also has to have a big belly. He keeps everything in his big belly, means he swallows whatever he hears, but keep it secret, does not necessarily share with everybody. And he has the strength of an elephant, a huge body, so he is powerful enough to carry on a difficult task or a project that a leader has to do. So these are the leadership quality of God of the gods that one has to have when you are worshipping God as a leader of other gods and one who will remove all the obstacles of the devotee. That symbolic meaning is represented by Ganesha with an elephant head. Now, if you look at the Vedic literature, the Ganesha didn't have an elephant head. If you look at Gananantva Ganapati Gunhavamahe, in Sanskrit that means, O Lord of the group of people, but there is no mention of elephant head. So this is a later development in the mythology of the development of theology of Hindu society, where they realize that the leader will have to have more than just a beautiful face. He will have to have a quality of a strong elephant who is willing to listen, who is willing to be calm, who is also able to keep certain secret and swallow insult at the time, big stomach, big heart, and yet get the job done. That's what Ganesha does. If you look at the Hindu Dharma or Hindu religion, there are basically two major denominations, the Shiva worshippers here on this side and the Vishnu worshippers. Ganesha is the only god that is worshipped by all the denominations of Hindu faith, because this Ganesha is beyond the essential element of Shiva or major qualities of Vishnu. This god is there to remove the difficulties, pain and suffering of the common man, regardless his denominations. And that's why Ganesha became the most popular god, regardless of the denomination of the many Hindu religion tradition. Now, something interesting one should know. Many years ago, when a lot of Indians were trying to fight British government, early 1900, the learned, educated Indian leaders were trying to get rid of British or Indian colonization of the British. And one of the ways they did this was they started worshipping Ganesha, because he is the god who will remove their obstacle, and they are undertaking a colossal task. How would people in India, without any weapons or guns, dislodge the mightiest empire, a British empire, that had colonized almost all over the universe? And Mahatma Gandhi didn't come to India until 1915, because he was in South Africa fighting the discrimination by the British government in South Africa. Before 1915, Gokhale and Tilak made Ganesha as a popular god, where he brought Hindus of different denominations together and gave them a hope that this god that removes the obstacle will remove all our obstacles in our fight to remove the British rule in India. Now, interestingly, British, who did not know the mythological meaning of Ganesha, did not understand what Hindus were worshipping and why they were worshipping Ganesha so much, because this was a hidden message that British government didn't get for almost 25 years. that when Hindus are worshipping Ganesha, they are really asking the unity and strength to be able to stand up together against the British rule in India. And that is what happened in 1947. Hindus of different denomination, in fact Muslims and Hindus and Christians and Sikhs of India got together and ultimately had Quit India movement, ultimately leading to the freedom of India from British Raj. So this is Ganesha. Few other features of Ganesha are he has a modak or a sweet ball in his hand, saying if you have a faith, your wishes will be granted. He also keeps a snare or a mace to destroy your fear, your anxiety, and your greed. Because in order to achieve something, you must be able to control your fear, your undue greed, and your selfishness or your negative emotions. And that's what Gandhi has taught. He said, I'm not fighting British as a person, I'm just fighting the British rule in India. In fact, many of friends of Gandhi were white British officers. They were his friends. He said, I have nothing against you as a human beings. You are my friend. But I cannot have a foreign government where I don't have right to vote rule our nation for 150 years. So on one hand, you have to be open-minded and honest, at the same time have tremendous strength to lead a non-violent movement against the largest, most powerful empire, the British Empire at that time. So this mythology of Ganesha actually helped people of India stay together and put a non-violent fight between 1905 to 1947. Today, Ganesha is being worshipped. Every time a Hindu will buy a house or buy a new car or start a new job, because he's a god of beginning, god that will remove the obstacles. But in order to succeed, whenever you take a major task, you have to have some of the qualities that are represented in this statue of Ganesha. Elephant head means memory. If you're traveling somewhere, remember, you don't forget your laptop, or you don't forget your key, or you don't forget your credit card. So you need memory. You need big ears. Learn to listen to people. And sometimes ignore people if they are being very mean to you. At the same time, try to understand what that person is trying to tell you. Ganesha doesn't talk much. A good leader doesn't have to give a long lecture. He shows it by action. And that's what Ganesha does. Ganesha had killed many asura or many evil powers. In fact, he had one trunk broken during his fight with one of the demons to bring the peace back on the planet Earth. Now, another interesting fun story is his vehicle or his transportation is a mouse. In fact, some of the modern cartoon, the computer mouse is considered Ganesha's way of navigating. But the mouse represents the restless mind that can go in small corners and cannot hold still. Ganesha teaches by controlling mouse as his essential vehicle, says first step is learn to control your restless mind. You cannot get success until you learn to control your mouse. The restless desire, the restless, I want it now, I want it quickly, I want to go here, I want to go there. Well, that's not the way to be successful. Ganesha says you need stay calm, learn to control your restless mind. So symbolically, Ganesha is kind of a nice recipe or a nice symbolism of success and how to overcome a difficult project. Let me go to the third statue here, Krishna. One of the interesting faith that people of India has is this Sanskrit saying, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Whenever there is a decline of righteousness, Lord Narayan or Lord Vishnu will take incarnation to save the dharma or righteousness and will destroy the evils. The justice, the kindness, the noble virtues will always win over the evil power. The dark side will always lose. It's like a Star Wars story. Ultimately, the Dark Vader has to die, and then the Force has to win. That has been the theme of multiple incarnations of Lord Vishnu for centuries in India. One of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu is Krishna, a very playful, beautiful, joyful incarnation. And Krishna as a child does something very beautiful. And that's the story about this statue. When Krishna was a child, about 5 or 6 years old, in Gokul or Vrindavan, his hometown, he noticed that the river Yamuna, a river at the outskirts of his town, had the water totally poisoned. Whenever cattle, cow will go there and drink the water, some of them will die. Eventually they found out that this particular river had a poisonous snake called Kaliyah. This Kaliyah was a huge snake who had decided to come and stay in the river Ganges, and this snake was so poisonous that it poisoned the water of the river Yamuna or river Jamuna. Krishna, being a god of preserving life and reincarnation or incarnation of Lord Vishnu to protect the human being, he purposely, while he was playing the game of similar to baseball, a ball game, purposely threw a ball in the middle of the river Yamuna. And his friend insisted, "Hey Krishna, you threw the ball, you go and get it." And Krishna of course wanted to do it. So he jumped in the Yamuna and got hold of this Kaliyah serpent and controlled the furious snake Kaliyah, and he controlled him so well that he put his feet on the Kaliyah's head and started a dance. As soon as Kaliyah found out that this feet is no other than the holy feet of Lord Narayana or Lord Vishnu, Kaliyah surrendered and decided to obey what Krishna asked him to do. And Krishna said, "Kaliyah, you have two choices. Either I kill you or you get out of this river and go somewhere else, so your poisonous venom would not hurt the human beings and the cattle around this river." And it so happened that Kaliyah decided to leave, and Krishna restored the water, and the life in his town was back to normal. Now look at the symbolic meaning of this story. This Kaliyah or the snake is no other than our own anger and fear. Yamuna is life. Water in old mythology represents life. Now mythology is not just fiction, it is a symbolic presentation, and that makes the story last for centuries because it has a huge symbolic meaning that is useful to our life. Our life becomes poisonous when lust, greed, anger, or fear takes over our life. We are not able to enjoy the life. The source of joy dies away when the Yamuna water is poisoned by this Kaliyah or the snake. Krishna, as an incarnation of Vishnu, represents supreme consciousness of inner soul and joy that the divinity and the devotion bring in your heart. When the joy and the purity of consciousness conquers the fear or lust, there is harmony back to normal. There's a dance of joy. There's a dance of harmony. And then the fear decides to go away. Now the interesting part of this mythology is, even though Krishna gives two options, totally killing lust or fear is not a wise choice, because life is a combination of good and bad. Life is a combination of dark side and the bright side. If you totally destroy the desire or lust, the sexual desire is important to continue the recreation of the human life. It is the excess of this sexual desire that creates a disaster. So when it becomes lust, it is bad. Normal, healthy sex desire is a reason for continuity of the human race. So Krishna does not destroy the dark side. It just tells the dark side to go somewhere else or stay under control. As long as your fear, your anger, your desire to have sexual satisfaction remains under the control of the divine or a conscious power of your mind, then it does not harm you as much. It brings a balance of the dark side and the bright side. Krishna being joy, consciousness, and the eternal truth tries to control the anger, greed, lust, and desire. So this is the deeper symbolic meaning. But the story is beautiful, that Lord Vishnu as an incarnation kills or displaces the Kaliyah or the snake of venom, snake with venom that cause poison in the life. So that's the story of Krishna. The remaining two stories that I'm going to tell you does not pertain to any particular statue I have brought today. But it's a very interesting ancient story from Hindu mythological text. The one story is the arrival of river Ganges from heaven to the planet Earth. It's a very interesting story. For Hindus, Ganges is a holy river. And for centuries, Ganges water has provided essential water for farmers. It has been a mode of transportation through the boats. A holy deep in Ganges reassures Hindus that their sins are washed off. And Ganges River is the mother of culture and civilization of ancient Aryans for long time, almost 5,000 years old. In fact, the best way Hindus describe the contribution of river Ganges is call it Mother Ganges, Ganga Maya. She's almost like a mother to the civilization or society of people in India, because at the time of drought, Ganges water kept people alive. And the beauty about Ganges water is it has the water supply twice a year. When there is a monsoon season, there's a river filled with water because of the monsoon rain. And in summer, when there is no rain, the melting ice from Himalayan snow brings more water, because Ganges start from the peak of Himalayan mountain, which is always covered with a lot of snow. In summer, when the temperature goes up, the snow melts and bring more water in the Ganges. So unlike other rivers that dry out in summertime in India, Ganges actually has more water in the summertime. So it has a special meaning to people in that part of the country. Now the story is very interesting. It was believed that Ganges was a goddess that lived in heaven, and there was no Ganges on the earth. There was a king named Sagar, S-A-G-A-R, who wanted to become an emperor thousands of years ago. And in order to declare that he's powerful enough to become the emperor, the tradition was that he would select a powerful horse, and wherever the horse will travel, if the king of that province will not challenge the passage of the horse, he agrees to take this King Sagar as the emperor of the nation. The horse is followed by the army. King Sagar has 100 sons or 1,000 sons or 100,000 armies, whatever the story goes. Story goes that King Sagar's 1,000 sons, I believe they were soldiers probably, followed this mighty royal horse. And as the horse kept on traveling, various kings accepted the mighty power of King Sagar. But one day, the horse enters the ashram or a abode of a great sage, a yogi or a philosopher named Kapila. And when the horse enters there, the sage is in meditation, he doesn't know that king's horse has arrived. Followed this by the sons of King Sagar. They misunderstood the sage. They thought he's challenging the monarchy of King Sagar. So they decide to fight with him. And sage said, hey, I have no fight. He said, no, you kept the horse, so you are challenging the emperor's power. They try to beat up the sage, they try to arrest him, not realizing that this wise man has a lot of yogic power. So through his yogic power, he destroys the army of this emperor. And when King Sagar finds out, he is very sad. He realizes that his sons have made a mistake. They should not have taken the war with a kind Kapila sage who also was a powerful yogi. In order to give a proper burial or proper cremation ceremony and to save the soul, he wanted river Ganges to come down and purify the sinful act of his arrogant sons. He made a lot of prayers, a lot of devotional rituals, but river Ganges just would not come down. His great-grandson, Bhagirath, then goes through years of prayers, years of meditation, and finally, river Ganges, the goddess Ganges, agreed to come down on the planet Earth. Now, as the river Ganges is about to come down, the sage Kapila says, Bhagirath, river Ganges is very powerful. This goddess, when comes in the form of the river, the water flow might just go under the earth and you may not have any water on the surface of the planet. So you need something to hold this force of water. But only powerful God who can sustain such a huge force is Lord Shiva. So Bhagirath then spent another 10 years worshipping Lord Shiva to please Lord Shiva, who is willing to take the force of river Ganges on his head so that Ganges will not go all the way down under the surface of the earth and disappear under the soil. When Shiva agrees to do that, Shiva is standing on the planet Earth at the Himalayas. River Ganges is about to come down from the heaven, and she sees this man standing there and she becomes arrogant. She says, who is this man who is going to be able to take my force? I'm going to drown him all the way and run him down to the bottom of the planet Earth, and he will be washed away. Shiva, being a god of infinite power, realizes the arrogance of goddess Ganges. Now he has a lot of hair, and he just ties the whole Ganges in his curls of hairs, and river Ganges just cannot come out. She realizes that not only her force did not do anything to Shiva, Shiva was able to just tie the whole Ganges in his big bunch of hair that Shiva had. Finally, Ganges realized that she is dealing with a mighty powerful Lord Shiva. So she offered her prayer, and Shiva let one little portion of the hair loose, and the Ganges come out. And she flows through the dead bodies of Sagars, and they get the salvation. And then Ganges decides to stay in the northern India, helping people. So this is the story. Now, ordinarily, this whole thing doesn't make a sense. How can a goddess be a river, and how can river come from heaven all the way top? And how can Lord Shiva tie the entire huge river in just his hair? And how does Bhagirath provides the water after hundreds of years? His granduncles and his grandfather's dead body receive the salvation. So again, if you take this mythological story at its face value, it doesn't make any sense at all. But think for a second. If Hindus want to appreciate and express their love and gratitude to the river that has been providing their water supply and the water for the farm for many years and support their culture, this river has to be a holy mother or a goddess. So they made this story that she came from heaven to help us. So that itself is a very reassuring, beautiful idea that has helped people of India worship and admire the river. They are seeing divinity in a form of nature. But the second important part is, when there is a pride or ego in river Ganges, it is the wisdom of Shiva that is trying to make Ganges humble and make her realize that when you are trying to do something good, don't be too arrogant. It is God's power that made you the instrument that you are able to help another human being. Ganges took upon herself that, oh, I'm going to go down and help people. And I'm so powerful that when I go down there, they won't be able to retain me. They won't be able to even sustain me. Well, that pride, that ego was brought to reality by Lord Shiva's infinite yogic and divine power. But the real message is, when your inner conscious in the brain higher up is fully awakened, your undue pride and ego goes away, and you realize that in order to help others, you need to take away this ego out if you truly want to help another human being. If you want to wash your sins, you also have to let your ego go. You have to develop the devotion. You have to develop the love and kindness. You cannot wash your sins that Ganges is about to do without being humble, without being kind, without having a sense of devotion and love. So this message was conveyed to millions of people through this beautiful mythological story of incarnation or avatara of Ganges from heaven to the earth. So the point I'm trying to make is, this is another story which you should not take at a face value, but try to get the deeper meaning. Here the deeper meaning is, from the brain power, you need to come to your heart. Your intellectual part, logic, argument, ego, has to come to the heart where the love and kindness is. The last story that I'm going to present comes from a great epic called Mahabharata. It's an epic that has 100,000 verses, about 3,000 years old. It is longer than Iliad and Odyssey combined, probably 5-6 times longer than that. It's in Sanskrit, and it's a beautiful story of two cousin brothers fighting for the kingdom. The Yudhishthira, or Prince of Dharma, lost his kingdom by a deceitful act, game of dice, by his cousin brother. Finally, he wants his kingdom back, and they end up fighting. At the time of the war, Prince Arjuna decides not to fight, and Krishna gives him a message called Bhagavad Gita, that it is your duty, your dharma, to fight at times when the peaceful discussion or peaceful efforts will fail. Now the story further goes, when Vyasa says that there are 4 goals of life. Dharma means do your duty, kama, artha and kama, and moksha. Artha means earn your living in a rightful manner. Every human being has right to make reasonable living and earn his bread, but it should be based on dharma, right action, right profession, noble action to make money. And then once you have earned your living, you have right to have kama, means fulfill your desire, have a family, have a house, If you want to buy a car, go ahead and buy a car. But it has to be through the moral, honest, noble method and not by crooked method. Ultimately, if you continue your journey to evolve your inner conscious, then you go to moksha or salvation, where you free yourself from the cycle of reincarnation. Now, in spite of this all detailed discussion, Maharishi Vyasa ends this great epic of 100,000 verses by a very important last statement and last story. He says, Paropakaraya punyaya, papaya parapidana. In Sanskrit, I'll translate for you. Helping other is the most noble dharma action, and hurting others is the most sinful act a human being can do. In other words, if you commit a violence to another human being, cause pain without any reasonable circumstances that justify it, then you have done a sin or a thing that a human being should not do. If you help other human being, that is the most noble act, is a lot better than performing a ritual, a lot better than going to a temple or a church, a lot better than giving a lecture, or a lot better than a lot of so-called religiosity. Helping the needy person was the essence of dharma. This was a summary, but he tells a beautiful story, and I want to tell that story to you. King of Dharma finally wins the war. He becomes a king. He rules as emperor in India for 35 years. As he's getting older, he decides to take a retirement. Back in those days, you go to what is called a vanaprastha ashram. You give up your house, go in the forest, live like a monk or live like a shaman, a pure, simple life. He gives his kingdom to his grandson, and he with his brothers travel towards the Himalayas. One by one, his brother and his wife died, and he's the only one climbing up in the forest and the top of the mountain of Himalayas. Now, during his journey, a dog decides to follow him. This king of Dharma, Yudhishthira, and the dog have been traveling together for several days. And as the plantation and the life is less, the dog is helping king find the food, king finds dog water and food, they sleep together, give warmth to each other. The top of the mount of Himalaya is very cold, they are supporting each other. They become friends. Ultimately, when the king and the dog reach to the top of the mountain, it so happens, suddenly there's a big light, and a helicopter or a what they call a Vayuyan. It's interesting that 3,000 years ago that mythological story had a flying vehicle coming from heaven, lands right in front of the king on the top of the mountain Himalayas. And the angels come out and says, mighty king, you have been a very honest man. You have been a very noble person. The God has sent this aircraft to bring you to the heaven. Most people have to die to go to heaven. You can come to heaven while you are still alive. We welcome you to the heaven. So as the king tries to enter the aircraft, he asks the dog to go in the aircraft first. And the angels say, hey, hold it. This aircraft was sent by the God only for you, not this dog. We don't allow dogs in the heaven. And the king of Dharma says, but angels, look at this. There's nothing but snow around here. There are no plantations. There is no food for this dog. This dog has been my friend for the last 40 days. And it would be very unkind for me to go ahead and take the craft and leave this dog alone. And the angel said, you make up your mind. We do not allow the dog to come to heaven. This craft is for you. You are welcome to the heaven. This is a one-in-lifetime chance for total salvation. Come in. And the king of Dharma says, if there is no kindness for this dog in the heaven, I do not want this heaven. I prefer to die with my dog here. My friendship and my love for this dog is as important as the salvation or going to heaven. And that's where the story ends. So the point is, after a huge, big epic of 100,000 verses, the story of war, story of dharma, story of right action, the duty, the knowledge, devotion, the great poet Vyasa ends by a short story. And he gives the essence of dharma, essence of all religion, love and kindness. Because Prince of Dharma says, if there is no room for kindness or love in the heaven, I do not want that heaven. I want to tell one more story, again a mythological story, but it has a lifelong meaning for millions of people. It has meant a lot to me too. I've said this story or presented this story to many of my friends before. It's a beautiful story of a king who decides to go for hunting. And back in India, when kings would go hunting for lion or tiger, it would be not the guns, it would be bow and arrow. I think it's a fair game at that time. I think it's better than using the gun, but that's a different story. The king decides to go for hunting. He rides the horse and he decides to take 10 of his soldiers to go with him. So all these 11 people riding on a horse run towards a forest. Unfortunately, it is a hot, muggy day, and king runs around all over the forest and does not find any game. He tries to find a deer, tiger, lion, no luck, not even a small deer. He's sweating, he has been tired, and suddenly he comes across a beautiful lake, a small pond or a small lake. And the water is crystal clear. You can see your reflection in this nice, clean pond or lake. He comes there, he tries to wash his hands and wash his face and drink water. As he's washing his hands, he has lost some weight by this time by sweating and not eating. So his royal ring falls out his hand and just drops in the water of the lake or that area. As he comes out, he says, "Oh my God, where is my ring? Where is my ring?" And he panics. And this is a royal ring, beautiful, expensive diamond. So he is quite upset. He tells his soldiers, "You guys, go and jump in the lake and find my ring." Now imagine this, 10 horses, 10 horsemen jumping in a lake trying to find a tiny ring. Obviously they could not find it. While all this commotion is going on, a wise man was going by and he says, "Mighty king, what is going on?" He says, "Old man, just go away." He says, "No, sir, if you want, I can help you." "No, I'll be all right." The yogi or the wise man just goes away. A few minutes later, king says, "Maybe I could use his help." So he calls him and says, "Yes, can you help me?" And the sage says, "I can, but you have to listen to me." King says, "Sure." He says, "Get all your horses and horsemen out of the lake, and you yourself, sire, go a mile away where there are a bunch of trees and take a nap. And don't come until I call you." And half an hour goes by, 1 hour goes by. King is trying to take a nap under the tree, finally falls asleep. 2-3 hours later, the wise man slowly goes around the pond, particularly goes where the king was washing his face, and sees a shiny object in the mud, gently goes to the water, picks up that object, and that happens to be the royal ring. He gives this to the king. There I end my story. If you look deeply enough, you will realize that this lake represents our mind. When all the thoughts have disturbed our mind, the clarity is gone. We cannot see the reflection of our true nature. Our greed, our desire, our multiple thoughts cloud the lake of our mind. When the consciousness brings tranquility, meditation brings calmness, you are able to see the reflection of the diamond. The diamond is your true nature, your true self, which is divine, calm, conscious, and full of joy. Thank you. Namaste.